Welcome to Ye Olde Gazette. Join us as we delve into the shadows of the 19th century, unearthing stories of obscure true crime and local oddities. In this episode, a father maddened by lightning turns on his family. At a maniac's mercy, New York, June 1896. The sharp electric storm which passed over the city early yesterday morning drove William Scarlet insane. Maddened by the vivid lightning, he turned upon his 3 children and held them captive for 5 terrible hours. Scarlet is a private coachman in the employ of Mrs. Mary Cockcroft. The handsome 2-story stable is at number 30, East 32nd Street, diagonally across from the Park Avenue Hotel and opposite the Grolier Club. There, Scarlet has lived for 5 years in comfortable rooms on the 2nd floor with his children. Margaret, his eldest of 18, Matilda, 12 years old, and Emma, a toddler of 6, made up the little family. Scarlet sleeps in the front room and his 3 daughters in a rear apartment. It was 2 o'clock in the morning when Margaret was awakened by a shrill laughter. Her hearing is defective, and it was several moments before she realized that the unearthly sounds were coming from her father's room. Jumping up, the frightened girl rushed into the front room and stood aghast at a sight which will probably never be obliterated from her mind. Scarlet had removed his clothing and drawn his bed close to the opened window. Margaret entered to find him crouching upon the bed and glaring out into the night. The storm was at its height, and the lightning flashes illuminated the little bedroom. Shrieking with mad glee at every flash, Scarlet's gleaming eyes were turned about the room until his gaze fell upon the shrinking daughter, who stood upon the threshold. There was no light of reason in Scarlet's gaze. He sprang from the bed and caught the terrified girl by the shoulder.
"Maggie!"
he cried.
"At last I have been chosen! Tonight I slept with open windows, and the lightnings entered. They struck me here."
And he tore at his bare chest until the blood flowed from a score of scratches.
"Now I am a magnet. My touch is power. Who shall slay me?"
raved the maniac, holding the fright-benumbed girl in a vice-like grasp.
"Just watch me now,"
he muttered, lowering his voice and bending so as to peer into the girl's eyes.
"You have suffered from deafness for years. Now with a touch, I will cure you!"
At the word, he dealt her 2 powerful blows, one on either ear. His fists were clenched, and he struck with crushing force. Margaret, with a smothered shriek, fell half-stunned at the madman's feet, blood running from her buffeted ears. That was the beginning of a night of horrors. Scarlet, no longer the considerate father, but a dangerous maniac, took possession of the house, while his 3 daughters clung to each other in terror, watching with distended eyes this man who had never before been anything but gentle and affectionate. He ran from window to window, waving his arms at the lightning. Then the current of his madness changed. Smashing article after article of furniture, he would shriek at each blow.
"See my power! It's the lightning that's in me!"
Scarlet broke the crockery, then drove his fists against the walls, driving holes through the plastering. At intervals, he would pause in his carnival of destructive madness to dart up the skylight ladder and out upon the roof. Noiselessly, he would wave his arms at the sky, then rush back to his mad play. Through it all, he never for an instant lost sight of his children. Even when upon the roof, his eyes were fixed upon them. He seemed to realize that their escape from the house meant capture for him, and his crazed vigilance was never relaxed. 3 times during the night, Margaret managed to creep halfway down the short flight of stairs to the street door, only to be dragged back by the father. 5 hours passed, and day dawned, but it brought no relief to the endangered and terrified children. Mrs. Fraser, wife of the janitor of the Grolier Club, happened to glance out of her window at 4 o'clock in the morning and caught sight of the nude coachman dancing upon the stable roof. The frightened woman gave no alarm, only stood and watched the weird performance. The coachman's children had made a final effort to escape. Matilda, selecting a moment when the crazed father was occupied in smashing a heavy armchair, darted down the stairs and into the street. But even then, the child's first thought was for her father's welfare. The memory of years of love outweighed the terrors of the night, and instead of running for the police, she scurried to Dr. William C. Kennedy's house. Scarlet had seen the child dart out and turned in fury upon the eldest girl. Margaret is engaged to a young tradesman in the neighborhood of the stable, and the wedding is set for Wednesday next. This fact flashed through the brain of the father as he turned upon the frail girl in his fury.
"So you have outwitted me!"
he shrieked.
"You have sent for the police, and I'll settle with you for it now. Let's have that engagement ring."
He tore the golden circlet from Margaret's finger and, darting down into the stable, threw it into a pile of hay. Returning in an instant, he sprang upon the girl. Falling under a storm of cruel blows, the half-fainting Margaret managed to roll from under her assailant's feet, right down the steep stairs to the street door. Although dazed by the blows and the fall, she realized that now was her one chance of escape. With a desperate effort, she gained her feet and stepped into the street, shrieking at every step. Janitor Fraser at that moment hurried out of the Grolier Club. He rushed across the street to the girl's assistance and, at her request, held onto the knob of the stable door so that it could not be opened from within. She rushed towards 4th Avenue, while Fraser held onto the doorknob for dear life. Scarlet, stark naked and armed with a heavy club, vaulted out of the stable through a window in the street. The next instant, he brought the club down on the top of Fraser's head. It stunned the janitor for an instant. Recovering before a second blow landed, he grappled with the naked madman in a desperate struggle. Meanwhile, the daughter Margaret had summoned policeman J.M. Stevenson of the West 30th Street station. He reached the stable just as the struggling men, covered with blood, fell to the sidewalk, Fraser on top. Stevenson dragged the madman into the stable and held him while a citizen sent in a call for a patrol wagon. Again, the maniac displayed his peculiar cunning, growing suddenly calm. He permitted his captors to partially dress him and expressed regret at having caused so much trouble. The mildness and suavity completely deceived policeman Stevenson. He let his grip on the madman's throat and congratulated him on a return of reason. No one at that moment noticed an axe which lay close to the wall and within reach of Scarlet's hand. Dr. Kennedy and his patrol wagon arrived simultaneously. A large crowd had gathered by that time, and 2 more policemen had appeared on the scene. Scarlet took in the situation at a glance. He took a good look at the patrol wagon, glanced for an instant into Dr. Kennedy's face.
"You'll never capture me!"
he yelled, at the same time snatching up the axe and charging at the crowd. With a powerful left-arm blow, he sent Dr. Kennedy reeling against the stable wall. Then he raised the axe. An instant's hesitation then would have cost a life. Fortunately, there were brave men in that crowd of citizens and police. They closed in upon the madman and bore him down. He fought with fury and was only subdued when weakened by loss of blood and stunned by a storm of blows. Bound with ropes like a wild animal, he was finally placed in the patrol wagon and removed to the insane pavilion at Bellevue Hospital. Policeman Stevenson was badly bruised about the head by the madman in the desperate fight for possession of the axe. Janitor Fraser, though not broken, surmounted lumps as large as an apple. Another coachman took charge of the Cockcroft's horses last night, But Scarlet's children will continue to make their home in the second story of the stable. The house is a wreck. Shattered furniture and broken plastering in every room mark the fury of poor Scarlet's madness. At Bellevue Hospital, nothing was definitely determined yesterday in the coachman's case. He has never shown a symptom of insanity, and his life is believed to have been well regulated in every sense. It is believed that he has a good chance of recovery. His little family will be cared for by sympathizing friends.